I would go to auditions in New York City and things of that nature, and Wesley Snipes would show up and Lawrence Fishburne, and like I knew I couldn't get the gig because they were well-known individuals. So I said, I'll go to another country and I'll make a name for myself there. I was scheduled to do The Quest with Van Damme. I got pulled from that. King of the Kickboxers, I went out for that. I initially told I got that, but Billy Blanks ended up getting that from me. And I'm like, oh my God, I just can't catch a break, Chu Chi Ling and I, we were in the Nathan Hotel in Hong Kong. Guy was in there. His name was Paul Chang Hong Yip. And then I started speaking Chinese to him, and he was like, whoa. He was like, all right. He said, this is what I'm gonna do for you. He says, you meet me tonight. I met him. He walked in. Chen Kun Tai walked in. Paul Chang and Sammo Hung walked in. So now I'm like, oh my Lord.
What got you into martial arts, and what's your martial arts background?
I went and saw a film years ago called Five Fingers of Death, and there's an ironic twist to that story. I was very young. My aunt, she took me to go see it. She said, you want to go see a karate movie? I said, I've never seen one, but interesting. As soon as I saw Five Fingers of Death, I knew at that particular moment that that's exactly what I wanted to do in life. The particular actor, Lole, they called him Georgie Howe in the movie. He was like a hero to me. And I said, one day, I'm gonna work with these actors. And the ironic part about that story is the actual first film that I did in Hong Kong was with that same actor.
Oh, wow.
So, dreams can come true.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I studied Hung Gar Kung Fu in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Yeah, my mother and father divorced when I was 2. So my father was the first black banker on Wall Street. He worked for manufacturers Hanover Trust at that time. So I was shuffled between both homes in Philadelphia and New York. While I was in New York, I had the opportunity to see a lot of martial arts films on 42nd Street.
I heard about it.
Yeah, during the 80s, So that was the catalyst also for me to pursue a specific career in Hong Kong, just not in martial arts films in general.
Sweet. And how did you all come across was the only martial arts school around, or you just
no, there was a gentleman, his name was Maurice Tunstall. He actually lived across the street from me, and everyone said, oh, he knows Kung Fu and this and that. And, I went over there with my rudimentary movie style of fighting. And he was like, no. He says, let me show you the real deal. Nice. So he started showing me Hung Gar Kung Fu. And I just fell in love with it. And I knew that, Hung Gar Kung Fu was the route for me to take if I was to go to Hong Kong and be an action guy.
How old were you when you started in this?
I started with him when I was... I want to say 14 years old. But when I went to go see Five Fingers of Death, I was, I think, like around 10 or 11 at that time. But so I was kind of self-taught up until that point, and then I got to traditional. So I stayed with him for 20, 30 years studying that martial arts. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm not familiar with well, I've heard of it, not too familiar. Do they have does Hung Gar have a traditional ranking system, or how do they go about that?
Not really. It's basically based on the knowledge that you have of the system, managing, mastering the 18 weapons, and also the hand forms as well, and the 2-man forms, things of that nature. Gradually, as you get to know the system and the different forms, that elevates you to a certain level in the system. So Chinese system is different from karate systems.
Oh, definitely. I'm a karate guy.
Yeah. Not to say that one is better than the other. It's just 2 different schools of thought, basically, and 2 different training regimens. The Chinese Kung Fu is more of a circular pattern, more fluidity involved with the certain techniques as opposed to your style. That's all.
Definitely straightforward and rigid.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
but there's applicable parts about that.
Yes, sir. Oh man, that's awesome. And so you said about 14, and And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've known about you for years, and read up on you.
Oh my God!
No, even before this, like I said, I'm gonna get into that. You're gonna see how nerdy I am.
I appreciate you.
So when did you decide? If this is correct, you decided to go to Hong Kong when you worked at was it U.S. Air?
Yeah, interesting story. I thought about what was the easiest way for me to kind of facilitate my dream. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of us one day went to the airport, and I was the one who didn't really want to get a job. And, everyone else did. So I said, my friends, so I took the job at the airport. And then I started realizing when I heard that you could fly for free if you work for the airline. At that time, I was working for a security company, actually, that ran the security for the airport. Mm. So for about 2-3 years, every day I would greet the U.S. Air representatives, respectfully. Good morning, things of that nature. Finally, someone, one of the big shots said, did you ever think about working for U.S. Air? And I knew at that point, I said, no. He said, be in my office tomorrow morning. I did. And I was hired directly from the airline. And I knew at that point that the first vacation that I got, that was going to be my ticket to try and touch base and go overseas and start the dream.
That's actually,
I knew I couldn't afford the flight. So the best way to do it was an industry pass on the airlines. Sometimes you got to be unorthodox in your approach, but it worked.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's actually quite genius. I mean, it's simple, but it's great. I mean, I'm sure other people have done it, but yeah, you usually don't hear about that much. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would go to auditions here. And another reason, when I got of age, I would go to auditions in New York City and things of that nature. And Wesley Snipes would show up and Lawrence Fishburne. And I knew I couldn't get the gig because they were well-known individuals. So I said, I'll go to another country and I'll make a name for myself there. Then I'll come back, to kind of even out the playing field a little bit.
Sweet. And let me ask you, because supposedly every Black martial artist in the world auditioned for this one part in particular in New York. You probably already know about that.
Which one?
The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon. I did not actually. I missed that one. But a friend of mine who actually was at my Kung Fu school for a number of years, and he's a Sifu as well. His name was Rome. He was actually in The Last Dragon. But no, I missed that one. I went to Hong Kong.
Oh, you were gone by then, huh?
Yeah.
Sweet. And let me ask you, when you went to Hong Kong, that's extremely brave thing to do. Was your first time even out of the country, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And so how was it with the language barrier?
Well, again, I had a master plan. So up until I think when I was in Catholic high school, I went to West Catholic for Boys here in Philadelphia. Every day I would kind of teach myself how to speak Chinese.
Wow.
Because I had a plan. I said, if I go to that country, I need to be able to communicate. And also I wanted to have a skill repertoire that just not any other Black person could offer them. So I felt as though if I knew their language, that I would be more of an accepting person, as opposed to, them looking the other way and just thinking I was just a guaylo, just a regular American type of thing. So yeah, I countless hours, studying Chinese, and then I had a lot of Chinese friends, and then I worked in a newspaper store in Chinatown when I was young, just handing out Chinese newspapers, and I would clean up at the local Chinese movie theater, and then all that gave me an early access into the Chinese language and listening to the phonetics. Most Americans, they speak Mandarin, but I don't. I speak Cantonese. Yeah, and Cantonese is a different tonal structure. So, so that's Cantonese. It has a more eight or nine tones.
Man, that's awesome. And it's crazy. Think of in 2021, we got technology in the palm of our hands. We could translate, and I'm sure back then when you were doing it, it had to been.
There was none of that.
It's like no excuse today to not chase that dream.
I would listen to I would watch the movies, listen to recordings. I would listen to Chinese music, and I would just write it phonetically the best I could. that way I was assured of making sure that I had the right tones and things. It wasn't spelled correctly. I knew that. But I was able to attain the tone structure.
Man, that's wow, that's sweet.
It's different.
So now you say you went to Hong Kong and it was you were unlucky supposedly the first time or the first few times you went.
Yes, the first couple of times. Actually, a guy, Chu Ling, most of you may remember him from Kung Fu Hustle.
Oh, yeah.
He was good friends with my teacher, Maurice Tunstall. And Maurice, I remember he was opening up a branch of his Kung Fu in Nyack, New York. And Maurice said, would you like to go up and meet him? And I said, oh my God, I had seen him, Bruce Lee, the man in the myth, and a whole bunch of things. So he was a celebrity to me. So I went there and I met him and I said, listen, I want to go to Hong Kong. I want to, do movies. He said, listen, he said, if you ever get to Hong Kong, here's my number. You call me, I got you, no problem. And he was the first one that I took up on that offer because he managed me for about 3 years when I first arrived in Hong Kong. And I got some roles, but nothing that really stood out or actually did any kind of business. I was scheduled to do a film, Manhattan Midnight. The last minute that canceled. I was scheduled to do The Quest with Van Damme. I got pulled from that, but it's okay. My buddy Winston Ellis, who's a dear brother of mine, he got the role. He was the better man for the role anyway. I'm kind of a small guy, and Van Damme was looking for bigger guys. So he's really muscular, but he's a brilliant guy, and he deserved that. King of the Kickboxers, I went out for that. I initially told I got that, but Billy Blanks ended up getting that from me. So and then I got a call from Bojang. At the time, I hadn't met Sammo, and I didn't realize he was involved with the film at all. And it was a film called License to Steal. And they wanted me for a bad guy role. So I did a small fight scene, but that was cut. And the only thing, when I saw the film, the only thing I saw of myself in the film was an image of myself on a computer screen that Joyce was looking for. And I'm like, oh my God, I just can't catch a break,
Man.
So I was very fortunate. In I'm going to say, which year was this? This was 1990. Chu Ling and I, we were in the Nathan Hotel in Hong Kong. And I went to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, a guy was in there. His name was Paul Chang Hong Yip.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people remember him from Duel of the Iron Fist, the guy who rubbed his nose all the time.
Yeah.
Executioners of Shaolin. He's always the funny guy in a lot of the Shaw films. He says, well, what is a black guy doing in Hong Kong? And we're washing our hands. And I said, well, I want to get into Kung Fu movies. I said, I've seen you in many movies. And then I started speaking Chinese to him. And he was like, whoa. He was like, all right. He said, this is what I'm going to do for you. He says, you meet me tonight. It was at the Nikko Hotel, Japanese hotel. He says, I want to introduce you to some people. So that evening, I went over there by myself. I met him. He walked in. Chen Kun Tai walked in. Paul Chang and Sammo Hung walked in. So now I'm like, oh my Lord, every luminary that I watched growing up is sitting here, So I'm really nervous. So then Paul starts talking to Sammo and said, he's here to do Kung Fu movies. I had a whole bunch of pictures with me. So I started showing Sammo the photos. And Sammo was like, okay. He seemed not interested. He's like, yeah, not interesting, He says, but can you fight? I said, yeah, I can fight. He said, but can you fight 4 or 5 guys at a time? I was like, well, I'm not you, but with the guidance, So he acted like he really wasn't interested. He had small conversation for me, but he was the first one to get up and leave. Wow. So I thought that I had made a bad impression on him and everything. And Paul said, no, he's okay. He's okay. So at that point, Paul, myself and Chen Kun Tai, we go to dinner because he was having another guest that was coming, which was Lily Lee from the old Shaw Brothers film. She showed up. Oh my God, she was one of my heartthrobs. Her and Hui Hung. So we're all sitting and eating dinner, and all of a sudden the phone rings. And Paul says, okay, I hear you, Daigo. And next thing you know, he hangs up. He says, okay, your lucky day. I said, what? He said, Sammo's restructuring the ending of a movie he's doing right now, and he wants you to play the bad guy. And I was just like blown away.
That's crazy.
And that was Hong Fuk Chai Tin, which in American title is Gambling Ghost.
Gambling Ghost.
So yeah.
Man, that's quite amazing. I'm sure you were you nervous or just
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you, my nerves, handled me in a number of ways. First of all, when I first got on set, the first person I met was Colin Cho, Nicey. Most of you may remember him as Sarah from The Matrix.
Oh yeah, he speaks. Yeah. So were
speaks
you two
very
talking English?
No, at that time he didn't speak any English.
Oh wow.
At all. So it was kind of difficult, you know. He was from Taiwan, but he spoke Cantonese, so we were able to communicate.
Oh nice.
And he kind of, it was my first film, and there were some rough moments for me, you know. There was a punching segment that it just took forever. It took like 4 or 5 hours for me just to get like a 16 punch combination. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm working with every luminary known to man in this film, because it was an all-star cast. James Tien, Lo Lei from Five Fingers to Death, Lam Ching Ying from Prodigal Son. Everyone was in the film. So I just got nervous, and Sammo would just go and read a newspaper, you know, as long as it took me to get the stuff done. So afterwards, I finished the film early, ahead of schedule. I finished a week ahead of schedule. So the producers owed me $5,000. And I said to them, I said, well, they asked me, you know, we leave, you're finishing early. Can you kind of cut us a break on the money? I said, let me speak to Sammo. So they let me speak to Sammo, and I went to him. I said, listen, I said, they owe me some money. I said, but I'm willing to forego the $5,000 on one condition. And he looked at me like, what is it? And I said, that you allow me to work with you again in the future. I don't care about the money. I said, I just want the opportunity to work with you again. I said, you know, I feel as though I messed up a little bit, and I just want to prove to you that, you know, I could do right. And he was like, you know, I never got mad at you because you kept trying. So he was like, deal, no problem. And I forfeited the money. Actually, I did Gambling Ghosts, and I came back to the United States and started working with US Air again, you know?
Wow.
So it wasn't an instantaneous success for me. Sammo came to New York about 7 months after I got back to the US. And he said he was buying a home in Old Westbury, New York, and he wanted me to meet him at the airport. So I met him at the airport. We got him all set up at the old house up there. At this time, Yun Biao came with him. You know, it was my opportunity to meet Yun Biao. And Yun Biao is the one who started calling me Bobby. He said, we need a screen name for you. He's like, so are you Bobby Long, Bobby the Dragon, you know? So that's how everybody started calling me Bobby, because Yun Biao kind of named me that.
Oh, that's interesting.
As a screen moniker, you know? For me, I hear Bobby when my mother is happy with me, and I hear Robert when she's not. So, you know, but we buy the house for him. He goes back to Hong Kong after that. I go back to work at US Air. Finally, I get a notice from US Air that they're going to lay me off. So at this point, you know, I'm kind of nervous. I really don't have anything to hold on to at that time. So I picked up the phone. I called him. I said, look, they're about to lay me off. And he's like, nah, He said, catch the first flight out to Hong Kong. He says, I got you. So I bought a one-way ticket, because I knew that if it got difficult, I would just cash it in and just come back. You know, I said, nope. I said, I'm gonna force myself to stay in Atlanta until I earn money to get back home. So I did. I went out there, and he took me immediately to the immigration department, and I was on file as an English teacher for him, basically. But ultimately, they ended up putting me on contract with his film company, Bojan, for a 3-picture deal. So I was very fortunate. And the other part was that, you know, he wouldn't let me stay in a hotel. He says, now you're going to come and live with me. So I was like, wow. So he had a home that he had just sold. It was about $7-8 million house he sold. Nobody was in it. So he said, you can stay there until I get the house sold. And then once the house is sold, you'll just come and move in the house with us. So once the house was sold, I ended up moving in the house with him, and I stayed with him and me and his son. We shared a bunk bed.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
man, that's
it's different.
Let me go back. You mentioned
I know I kept talking. I apologize.
Oh no, that's cool. That's a lot of that I didn't wasn't in my initial research. That's crazy. And like the part of you coming back and then getting laid off. And I thought it was just a automatic success. Of course, it seems like that on the outside looking in.
Yeah. There's more trials and tribulations, but I got a book coming out and a documentary this year that's being produced. So you guys will get the full gist, the good and the bad.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned you did a scene that was ultimately deleted or scrapped. Is there any like remaining remnants of this scene, or is just
I
it's
mean,
gone?
with Hong Kong, you know how they do. They once it hits the floor, they don't really have a preservation system over
Yeah,
there to a degree, especially if it's a low budget film. So no, I never really got a copy of it. You know, I don't even know if the film, if the fight scene met their expectations, and that's why they cut it.
yeah,
So the only thing I have to show for that film is my face on the computer when Go Lai Hung is in there. So that's
that's
it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. You mentioned obviously with the gambling ghost
Yeah.
and well, first of all, I got it. It's a crazy thing I love about martial art movies, fight scenes when people are wearing suits.
Oh, right.
I think that's awesome for some reason. I
Yeah.
can't explain it.
I was on my Bobby Brown back then, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. And my father, who is a martial artist, and he's actually a suit guy, and he'll want me to ask you, was that tailor made or they just found something for you?
No, they tailor made that for me. They
Yeah,
tailor
because
made
it fit nice. It had to
it was
be.
tailor made because they traditionally they didn't have clothes for me over there that fit me. You know, my American size is different. They gave me a pair of pants and I split them immediately. So at that point, they knew that they had to use one of those famous Hong Kong tailors that can get it done for you in a couple of hours, and they did.
That's crazy. That's good work, though.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. But that film was the pinnacle for me because Mang Hoi was in there. I know you know Mang Hoi.
oh yeah,
He was the little boy Bruce Lee gave the rope to. He was actually the action coordinator for the film. Who else? Lole, Five Fingers of Death, Lam Ching Ying, Prodigal Son, James Tien, Fist of Fury, Bruce Lee's best friend.
yeah. He was in actually in was supposed to be in Bruce Lee's version of Game of Death.
Correct. Yeah, and of course I had my brother Colin Cho and Billy Chow. I used to be a big fan of his with his kicking.
Man, that's crazy. That is a star-studded. And,
yeah, but for your first film,
right? And let me ask, whose idea was it for the hair bit?
Oh, at the end, it was Sammo's. He was like, "Man, you got," because what was happening? Don't laugh. As we did takes, I had to, you know, it was a little compress in there, little Marys, a little, you know,
of course,
you know, back in the day, and it just kept boom, boom, you know. So Sammo just thought that was funny as hell. Oh, so man. He was like, you know what, we're going to use that the next time your hair flies up, and that's what he did.
That's crazy. And and I wanted to, like I said, I'm gonna throw my own little bit in there. Absolutely. You did another movie. Is it? I guess it translates to "Don't Give a Damn."
Yeah, Momin Bay. Yep.
Man. So I had to now I saw that back in the day when I was young. I mentioned my father was a martial arts guy. So a couple of pieces to this. So I'm a Chicago guy.
Yes, sir.
Born and raised. And there was a store. It was on it was called 79th Street Video. It was actually on 73rd, which is funny. But they were a video store. They specialized, they rented normal movies, but they specialized in two things: adult movies.
Right.
And import martial art movies.
Okay.
So of course this is VHS days, in my younger days.
Absolutely.
And he got this movie. It had to be in the early 90s on the Don't Give a Damn.
That was 94, I think.
There we go. Yeah, that sounds right. And we watched that. And of course, I saw this before I saw you in Gambling Ghost. And I'm like, whoa, I never saw a black man or anybody look like me in these Asian movies. And also in that movie, you had on this awesome leather jacket.
Yes.
That said Chicago.
That's right. Chicago, brother. That's right.
That's crazy.
That's right. I still have that.
That's nuts.
I took that from the set. It was custom designed for me because they were like, "What's your favorite team?" I was like, "Yeah, give me Chicago. Give me Junior. Make it stand out." So
yeah, they would have been winning the championships around that time.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, and I'm like, whoa! I'm like, it was just meant to be. I'm like, man, I just assumed you were from Chicago.
Yeah, I wanted to not do what they would expect normal Westerners to do. I wanted to have an edge. You know, I'm from West Philadelphia. So when Sammo kicked my hand and I did that series of moves and I used that profanity, I mean, basically it's how it works in the city. Yeah. You know? So.
And let me ask you, as I remember, I recently watched a clip. Was that your own voice when you were?
Yes.
Man, that's crazy because usually they do the dub and they even have somebody dub over somebody that speaks in
Well,
American
let me
English.
tell you, I actually had to go into a dubbing. We did the dubbing at Shaw Brothers, in the room. The guys over there, they're clapping stuff. They got all kinds of things making the sounds. I had to hit the dartboard and speak when my image came up on the screen. Real old school. So yeah, that is me.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I wanted it. I didn't want it straight Chinese. You know, I don't want to lose my identity. So you saw I mixed it. It was a mixture of English and Chinese.
Interesting. Well, let me I wanted to get to this question. That's a heck of a, like I said before, man, your story is I can't wait till that book comes out. It's the story of determination. And there's no excuses. I mean, you went and learned like phonetically and on your own, and one of the hardest languages in the world to learn, right?
Yes.
And but I wanted to ask you outside of I'm talking about martial arts. You're obviously a very skilled martial artist. So how do I want to phrase this question? I want to ask the modern perception of martial arts. Let me specify that as in, let's say mixed martial arts like UFC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Traditionalist, like I guess that'll be like my father's. I guess he's in your generation, coming up through what I refer to as the golden age of martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
They look at MMA or UFC, even though Dana White refers to Bruce Lee as the father of mixed martial arts. There's a thing with a lack of discipline that most traditionalists see with mixed martial arts. Like these guys go in there. There's some very skilled dudes, but people outside, they want to learn martial arts based on like UFC, and they just go and want to learn the fancy moves, and there's very little discipline. But anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that actually, you know, I like the UFC.
Of course,
I like it because, you know, the fighting game is a scientific game. I'm an avid boxing fan as well. I'm just all about the art of the fight. So I do have a traditional background, but I also, that was a little bit of an issue with me and my original teacher. He wanted me to kind of stay in a traditional route, you know, with the forms and everything. But my thinking was more eclectic, more using Wing Chun, boxing, you know, some of the MMA techniques I like. I'm not a good wrestler off the bat, you know, so I won't be entering that sport because I know that that's, you know, a good third of what happens in there.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it has its pros and its cons. So I don't infringe upon what they do. And the training regiment is different than, as you say, when your father and I and us were growing up. It's a different era, different techniques, different mindset. UFC is a business, you know. Martial arts films is a niche genre, which we still fight to get respect. Take the Academy Awards, for instance. You know, we still haven't been respectful as far as the stunt
Oscar,
which, you know, I have a problem with because a lot of the people that I work with are in that industry. You know, kudos to my big brother James Liu, who won an Emmy. You know, him and I co-directed Made in Chinatown together for the Luke Cage TV series. I mean, that's the first time I really ever saw someone get the respect that was due for, you know, the action genre. So, and I hope that was the first of many. So yeah, you know.
No, that's cool. And you know, James Liu, man, that guy's been
Big Trouble Little China, you name it. He's everything. He's everything. He's truly a genius when it comes to, you know, action for film. And I learned so much from him. I learned you know, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with Yuen Wu Ping. I've worked with Sammo multiple times. I've worked with Alfred Cheung, Kochi Sum, James Foley with The Corruptor, with Mark Wahlberg and Chow Yun-fat. You know, I've been very fortunate to work with a number of A-list directors, and I've gained a lot of knowledge from working with them. So, I mean, I every now and then I still do things for the front of the camera, but my passion is directing more so now.
That's interesting. You brought up the stunt, the Academy Awards, and the lack of respect they have for stunts and or fight choreography.
Mhm.
And I forget the actress's name, but she had she made a tweet about so Brad Pitt won an Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he played a stuntman, and she said something along the lines of she said, yeah, Hollywood, where an actor could win an award for playing a stuntman, but where a stuntman is not recognized by the same awards organization.
That's correct.
And
I mean,
that's
that sort of thinking parallels years ago thinking, look at Warren Olin. Why wouldn't you just hire an Asian person to play, if that were the case, So we've been dealing with these type of issues for a number of years.
Yeah, I do think there's progress. There's a lot of
progress. I'm living proof that there's progress. I'm an African American from West Philadelphia that went to Hong Kong. I mean,
yes,
who
sir.
ever think, So yeah.
And you mentioned Yu Woon Ping. You worked with him on excuse my knowledge. It was the ship movie.
Yes, the Red Wolf.
The Red Wolf, yes,
Red Wolf,
that one
which was a knockoff of Speed, actually.
Yeah, Speed 2 came around that time.
Yeah, Speed 2 came around, and Yuen Woo-ping was like, nah, I want to try something different, And at that time, which was funny, I had actually started the first Western stunt team in Hong Kong ever. There were a number of foreigners. We would get little bit roles, but I actually managed to get Art House Productions a good film company to represent us, to sign us on as a group. And the first film that we all did was Yuen Woo-ping's Red Wolf. He hired us all.
Yeah. Is this the G7?
The G7, the Guaylo 7, yeah.
Guaylo 7. Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's awesome. Whose idea is it to come up with it's like so many great fighting ideas. The soapy floor, the mop water.
Yeah, that was Yuen Woo-ping's brother. He was the one who came up with that. It was that was a rough scene to shoot. That really was a rough scene to shoot. At first I was a little upset because I said, like Happy Heskey, he's the Australian kickboxing champion. He's got a good fight scene. All the other Guaylo 7s that were in the film, they did pretty good. I mean, I had some gunplay in there.
Yeah.
And then when it came time for my action, then I had the soapy floor. But all in all, Yuen Woo-ping, he was like, nah, I wanted your character to be able to breathe, meaning I wanted you to have an actual character. I just didn't want you to fight your way. He said Sammo values you because he's the godfather of Sammo's children. So actually I had to go to Sammo and ask permission from Sammo if I could work for Yuen Woo-ping. But he said, of course, that's how it works in Hong Kong. When you follow, when you want to work outside of the company, you have to go and you have to ask for respect, and Sammo gave me his blessings on that. So it's a funny thing though, when we were filming that, I said, Yuen Woo-ping, he would always come over to me and pick my hair all the time. I found that fascinating, right? And asked me for a cigarette. So he said to me, he was like, Bobby, he said, they want me to do this film in the United States after. He says, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure. And then I said, well, what is it? And he was like, some film called Matrix or something like that. I said, no. I said, do it. I said, you're brilliant. You're the best. It'll help you in America. You'll be a big, huge success. Do the job. And it's ironic because I told Colin Cho, I said, if you ever come to the United States and you keep speaking English with me and you learn English good, you'll be a superstar. Yeah. And look what ended up happening to him. He ended up doing quite well here in the US. He's represented by one of the top agencies in LA.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And it's funny, him and I we're Sammo's only two students, and our birthdays are on the same day, and we're the same age.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, that couldn't be me. I'd be bragging like, I told him to do the Matrix.
Right. Yeah.
Because that change to this day is being felt, the effects of that, the culture and the choreography.
Yep. And we have part 4 coming out soon. So
yeah, that's true. And he worked on this one too. Yu Woon-ping.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Man, that's amazing. That was a while since the last one. But that's let me ask you this. We talked about a lot of your work. What's your any of your shorts, including everything, what's your favorite work, your on-screen fight?
My on-screen fight, my favorite one would be the three-way fight with me, Sammo, and Colin, and Don't Give a Damn.
And Don't Give a Damn. Yeah, yeah, that's
That
funny.
that
And
that was a difficult fight. That was a difficult
yeah,
fight, and actually, it was fun filming that. We had 7 action directors:
whoa,
Jingalok, Lau Ka Wing, Cho Wing, Sammo, Yun Wu Ping, not Yun Wu Ping, Yun Biao. There was a number of them. That's where I got my Hong Kong Stuntman's card too.
that's sweet. Who's I always go to the funny bits because I think before the fight is you, the three-way fight. You're looking, and yeah, that's that movie, right? I have it right.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. And I'm glad you brought that up. You said 7 action directors.
Yeah, 7 action directors on that.
And that one, I guess another 2-parter. So you formed the G7, and you say you worked with the action directors. Several other martial artists have said when they worked in America, they've tried to put together these, I guess, guilds or groups of stuntmen. And for example, I forget the gentleman's name. He's a British gentleman from the early 90s. He actually worked with Jackie Chan in City Hunter. I'm brain farting on his name.
Gary Daniels.
Gary Daniels. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Gary Daniels.
And he said he tried to form like the kind of thing you did, but he said the egos and the which is unbelievable, and it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. It was difficult to get the 7 to join together, but I pointed out to him the pluses. We can either just be footnotes at the end of Asian films, or we can sign with the Asian film company and do bigger things. I started looking up on billboards, and I would see some of Gualo 7. They were doing print ads for Ford Modeling Agency and different things like that. Diana went to do a Van Damme film. Habby went on to do Mr. Nice Guy, along with another number of films with Sammo. So yeah, everybody had an opportunity to do something else.
Nice. Now I'm sorry. You were saying Don't Give a Damn was your favorite. But why exactly?
Because it gave me a chance to work with 7 different action directors and understand how they think. And it helped me in how I would later move my career solo to another direction, as far as when I design action and things of that nature. Most people, they say, I don't try to replicate Hong Kong style per se, because that's to me, that doesn't show growth. That doesn't really do anything to push the needle forward. I take the knowledge that I have of working in Hong Kong with those action directors and apply it to sort of like my own mix of what I like to do, some American sensibilities in addition to Asian, and I also love Korean cinema. I love, cinema from India. I kind of put everything together, I have my good friend and brother, Maurice Crump, in talks now to direct him in a couple of films. He's the truth. He's the truth. Okay?
I recently spoke with Dallas Jackson, the director of Welcome to Sudden Death.
Yeah.
And I was like, why didn't you make Maurice the main villain?
Yeah.
And he was like, there were talks, but he said he's just he's working his way up there.
Yeah. I mean, look, at this point, Maurice has starred with everybody. So, I mean, the next step is for him to star in a film.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're in talks to do something now. I don't want to talk about it, but you get the exclusive when it's done.
It's sweet. I appreciate it. But no, and I also wanted to bring up, I saw this, I call it thinking glass half full, using a seemingly negative circumstance turned into a positive. Your short Shadow Fist.
Yes.
Like, of course, we know the older kung fu movies, they would fight with mask on and this and that. I'm like, what a great reason to use a mask in a fight scene.
That was part of myself, Reese Tanaka, Robert Jefferson. We sat back and we said, let's do an homage to Shaw Brothers, but let's not just do anything. Let's really do it,
Yes.
Let's do it in a way where they don't view it as a bunch of black guys trying to be Asian. Because sometimes if it's not done right, it could be lost in that translation. So Reese Tanaka, he's our music producer. He started making some calls and getting some of the original music from some of the Shaw stuff.
Yes.
And this would be the first film that I usually outsource the action for action directors. I work with Team One Take, Manny Ayala, a number of guys, but for this particular one, because I was a fan of Hong Kong cinema in the early days of Shaw Brothers, I said, you know what, I'm going to action direct this one. Nice. So because I wanted the action to be true to the form of what it was back then.
Yes.
So didn't overthink it, just a loose setup basically, and an excuse for some great action. Yeah. And I tried to highlight a lot of the styles in there, At the end, we had a little hip hop beat to kind of just put the American flavor on it, So yeah. And we
That's
actually
awesome.
we're working on part 2 now. We were very fortunate that did extremely well. I think 50,000 views for that one. And they want more. Fans started asking for more content like that. So we're in the process of Shadow Fist 2, The Axe Gang. So that's going to be very interesting. Trust me.
Nice. No, definitely can't wait. And I'm glad you said that about not looking like just a couple of black guys trying to be, because there's a huge difference. And I'm sure the difference between appreciating and appropriating.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's definitely not appropriating.
Our view was total nostalgia to try and get everyone to remember those old days, even when we opened up with Coming Soon and, feature presentation, it was from the 70s. Because I wanted people to get that feeling of when, evoke that feeling when they go to the theaters in 42nd Street, New York, and, the Milgram and Fox in Philadelphia, and get that feeling like, wow, I remember those days. So yeah, that was just me paying respect to where it all began.
And if I may say so, I think it's a job well done. That was truly awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. But let me say this: when it's all said and done, we've spoken a lot about your career. When it's all said and done, and you retire or decide to take a break, if you do, what do you want your ultimate legacy to be?
Again, I learned a long time ago, I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations and things of that nature. And, I've always appreciated, being here. The Lord blessed me, every day that I wake up. I consider that a blessing, but it's not the date you arrive and it's not the date that you end, because both are determined for everybody. It's the line that connect both points. That's what I want to be remembered by, saying that, wow, he followed his dreams. He did what was people would think was impossible.
Oh yeah.
And he maintained, he maintained for a number of years, and I just want to make sure I leave my daughter that legacy, So
sweet. And yeah, definitely it's a heck of a thing. I'm glad you said you
not only when I did the Kung Fu, I left the Kung Fu. When I came back, I met another fellow guy who loved martial arts movies. His name is Nick Quested. Nick is probably one of the most successful music video directors since Hype Williams. They were both neck and neck back then. Nick directed Phone Tap, Nas, you name it, Trick Daddy, you name it. He's done it all. He's worked with Dr. Dre. He was one of the #1 music video directors during the 90s. He's since he owns Goldcrest Studios, and he hired me. He was like, look, I want to shoot a video in London with Drew Hill. He said, would you be interested? I said, sure. And he said, can you get some of the Hong Kong guys? So that's when I called Lo Meng, and we all flew out to London, and we did this video, martial arts video for Drew Hill. It was never released in the United States, but it did very well overseas.
What was the name of the song?
Every time. It was off of their album. I have the video, actually. I'll let you see it. I've actually posted it a couple of times.
Sweet. I got to check that out.
Myself and Lo Meng, we were the action directors on there, but you get to see Cisco and Drew Hill and do Kung Fu, and they're flying through the air and things of that nature.
Man. Well, yeah, that's like
we had to go to Europe. We had to go to Europe. Not to cut you off. We had to go
no problem.
We had to go to Europe and shoot that because they were on tour. This was right at the height of Rush Hour, and they were a total success. Ironically, once I finished the video for them, they called me maybe about 5 months later, and they were like, look, you know, we all like you so much that we're taking you with us. So I ended up going into Europe and going all over the world with them. I was their trainer, their personal trainer, for a number of years, and I worked with them on their music videos and performed every night with them on stage, as well as Soul Train.
Sweet.
You know, and then I started, and then working with Nick, I got to second unit direct, did a lot of videos for Most Def, Eve, Metallica, Paula Cole, The Locks, DMX, Most Def, Drew Hill. Yeah, so
there was
I did
something
the Kung Fu movies, and then I came back and
music
started
video.
doing music videos. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That I didn't even know all about any of that with your career. And the artists that you name in the time period, there was in my opinion, something about that time period when the music videos you saw before when it came on and went off, the directed by it, that when that meant something.
That meant something, exactly right.
Yeah, like you said, Hype Williams and you said Nick Quested, Paul, I forget his name, Paul Thomas, I think it was.
Yeah, Paul Thomas, Betsy Blakemore. I worked with her. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's different game now. It's no, everything's YouTube.
With the Rough Riders, you know. So yeah, it was funny because you know you leave the movie business and now I'm immersed in the music business, you know. So, but then I transferred back to movies after music videos, and then I started directing, and I actually just finished directing my my first full-length feature. That was Made in Chinatown.
Made in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find that. I couldn't find it anywhere. I need it.
It's worldwide release in May.
So yeah, I was gonna ask you about future projects, but you mentioned you got a book in the works and a documentary coming out. Is there anything else down the pipeline?
Yeah, we're in pre-production now for Shadow Fist 2. Starring Marco the Answer Johnson. You know, he's the son of Willie, the world famous Willie the Bam Johnson.
Oh, I interviewed him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh cool. Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. This is his comeback film again. So we're looking forward to that, along with Anthony Scanish, Andre Duza. Next up after that, I'm leaving in July. This time I'm actually the star of action short from director Nicholas Ortiz. Three film groups have kind of joined together. It's loosely based on an old Denzel Washington movie, Man on Fire.
Yeah.
But we'll be, lots of gunplay, a lot of action, and we'll be filming that in July in Tijuana, Mexico. So actually, that's the first film that I'm actually the lead actor in. So I'm actually looking forward to that. You know, Nick's a brilliant director. He's an award-winning director, and when I approached him with the idea, and he just, a couple weeks later, he came back with the story, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so, yeah, we start principal photography July 12th, I believe.
Nice. Got a lot of good stuff coming in. Well, I don't want to keep you. That seems that should be more enough to put a nice little piece together for you.
And listen, I like to say, I support what you guys do. I follow you on Instagram, Facebook. You highlight a lot of the unsung guys, the guys that don't get a lot of attention, and I kind of pride myself on that as well. I like to give people opportunities, because there's a breadth of fresh talent out there that will never be given an opportunity because they can't get past that Hollywood loophole. Getting into SAG, getting on 3 major films with get the waivers. It could be an endless process for them sometimes. All the while they can get discouraged. So with the advent of how films are viewed today and digital technology and streaming services, I knew that streaming would be the future anyway. And that's another reason why I kind of earmarked myself in that direction, even short films, initially they were not getting the proper respect that was due.
Yeah, that's true.
Netflix and a lot of the other major platforms now have categories for short films because they feel the appetite, and that's where you're going to get your most creativity, and that's where you're also going to get your most original content, So
yeah, that's like I said about the whole, circumstance of the pandemic, has inspired a lot of people to be more creative and technology wise, like you said, everything's going to streaming now. Everything.
Right. And when we did Shadow Fist one, we had the mask on. We had to make that part of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It was a film we saw years ago. It was called Fists and Guts. It's a Taiwan film that the Lau brothers did years ago with Gordon Lau. And there was a nighttime scene where they had masks on, and they were creeping around fighting to get this particular jade statue. And I said, that's interesting. That's the angle that I wanted to do for Shadow Fist. So I said, because of the pandemic, that gave us a great excuse to put the masks in as a part of the narrative, as opposed to a gimmick.
Right. No, and it definitely works. Yeah, we're gonna probably most likely. I'm gonna connect that video to the end of your article, the Shadow Fist.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
So definitely want to get that out there on an uptick, and so people will be ready for the sequel.
And I'll give you an exclusive on Shadow 2 when we're done.
Sweet. We definitely appreciate that. But like I said, I'm sure I'm talking your ear off being a fan.
All right, my friend. I appreciate the support. There's no me without people like you and others, I'm extremely approachable. People can email me and have a conversation.
Yeah.
That's how I attack my business. You have to treat people with respect, and you got to always remain humble and stay balanced. That's important.
And one more thing. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
As if this isn't awesome enough. I sat in on a couple of months ago. It was you, Billy Blanks, Michael J. White on the Urban Action the panel they had, and that was just awesome.
Urban Action.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Urban Action. Demetrius Angelo. We've been with him since year one. I believe he's entering year 9 now. The pandemic kind of threw things a little bit for the past couple of years, but again, last year was even bigger. As opposed to being in person. He had so many other guests for last year and this year as well. I believe 22 will be back in person. If everyone stays disciplined, which is important. that particular venue is important for filmmakers in general and people of color, because it gives you an opportunity to network with industry professionals. It's supported by HBO, Cinemax, and the Warner brand. And I'm all about giving people opportunities and networking. And Demetrius creates the ideal platform for like one-stop shopping for if you want to get into filmmaking and for people of color.
And like you said, Mr. Samuels, HBO Max now is the new streaming, and they're connected. Imagine those opportunities when
right. Exactly. Yeah. So funding sources are coming down. Demetrius is offering funding sources for independent filmmakers. So again, always support the Urban Action Showcase, because that particular showcase is geared toward filmmakers of all ethnicities, but in particular African American people of color.
Sweet. That's an awesome note to end it on, I guess. But once again, thanks again. And
thank you, man. I appreciate this.
We'll obviously let you know when the piece is done, and hopefully you'll love it. And I'll try my best to put something together for you.
Yeah, and listen, we got Red Sash Theater out there. If anybody that want to go and see the short films, we have our R4 Films YouTube channel. Cool. So please reach out and support. We appreciate all the support we can get. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Samuels, and thanks again, and take it easy and be healthy and be safe.
All right, peace out.